In a quiet town, Emma grew up feeling invisible in her own home. Her parents, once loving and attentive, turned all their attention to her sister, Grace, after she was born prematurely. No matter how hard Emma tried, nothing was ever good enough. But what if everything changed one Thanksgiving evening? What happens when a quiet, overlooked daughter finally reveals her $12.6 million fortune, and the family who never noticed her success demand she fund their lives? This is a story of breaking free from the shadows, of choosing yourself when everyone else only saw you as a stepping stone. Stay tuned to find out what Emma did when she decided it was time to stop living for others. Don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness Stories for more powerful real-life stories that will leave you thinking long after the video ends. When Emma was young, life seemed simple. She had the perfect family in her small lakeside town. Her dad was a physics teacher, her mom worked as a nurse, and they weren't rich, but they were always there for her. Weekends were spent fishing with her dad and evenings on the porch with her mom, enjoying ice cream while they listened to the sounds of the lake. To Emma, it felt like her family was everything, supportive, loving, and always present. But that all shifted when Grace, her younger sister, was born prematurely. It happened on a cold January night when Emma was just 8 years old. She woke up to urgent knocks on the door, her aunt standing in the doorway with a pale face, telling her to grab a few things. Emma's heart raced as she was whisked away, her parents already at the hospital. Grace had been born 2 months early, and her survival depended on constant care. From that night on, Emma's life would never be the same. When Grace came home from the hospital, everything changed. Their house, once warm and filled with life, became a sterile zone. Hand sanitizers in every room, air purifiers buzzing around the clock, and the smell of bleach became normal. If Emma ever got sick, even with a simple cough, she was sent away to Grandma's house. At first, it seemed like a treat, Grandma's apple pie and the excitement of new books. But little by little, Emma realized that she was no longer wanted at home. She had become a potential risk to Grace, the fragile child who became the sole focus of their attention. Emma's world was no longer about her own achievements, her awards, or even her simple joys. By the time she was in 3rd grade, Emma had already earned a perfect score on a math test. She brought it home hoping for a reaction, for the recognition that she used to get. But instead, her mother barely glanced at it before turning her attention to Grace, who was feeling a little stuffy. Emma was dismissed with nothing more than a good job, no smile, no hug. It was clear, Emma's efforts were no longer worth the time. All their attention was reserved for Grace. As years passed, Emma learned to become invisible. Her accomplishments, no matter how impressive, never seemed to matter. Every time she did something remarkable, whether it was winning first place in the school science fair or getting a perfect SAT score, it was overshadowed by Grace's constant health problems, or her latest school recital, or whatever crisis was happening at the time. Emma did everything quietly, on her own, never expecting praise from her parents. In her own room, she found solace. It was her only space where she didn't have to shrink herself. In high school, Emma found solace in a job at a local bakery, Sugar Pines. It wasn't about the money. It was about the one person, Mrs. Lorraine, who actually saw Emma's worth. Mrs. Lorraine never asked why a 13-year-old was working. She just smiled, placed a hand on Emma's shoulder, and told her that hard work always earned a place in the world. For the first time, Emma felt seen for who she was, not just for being the quiet child who stayed out of the way. Emma continued working, doing her homework in the bakery's back room, always striving to be the best she could be, without anyone noticing. When it was time to apply to college, Emma did it all on her own. She applied to 12 colleges, wrote her essays in between shifts, and made sure every application was complete, every scholarship filled out. Her parents were too busy with Grace to even ask how Emma was doing. The only thing her mother said about Emma's full scholarship to Northwestern was that she should be careful not to stress Grace out, who had her own set of problems. Still, Emma didn't mind. She was used to going unnoticed. In college, Emma continued to succeed in silence. She majored in art history, her true passion, despite the family's indifference. Emma poured herself into her studies, working extra hard because she wanted to prove to herself that she could make something of her life, even if no one believed in her. After graduation, she landed an internship at a small jewelry appraisal firm, where she spent her days examining rare jewelry, meticulously documenting every detail. Slowly, Emma began to stand out, not because she was trying to impress anyone, but because she had a knack for spotting what others overlooked. Her big break came when she discovered a brooch that had been mislabeled as cheap costume jewelry. After hours of research, Emma discovered that it was an authentic piece made by a French artisan for the aristocracy. She presented her findings to her boss, and the brooch was reappraised at $12,000. It sold at auction for over $40,000. That was the moment Emma's talent was recognized. Finally, she continued to rise through the ranks, and as she did, she began to build her own business. She started her own company, Aum and Iris, named after the golden flowers her mother used to grow before Grace was born. It wasn't easy. She worked from a tiny office, furnished with second-hand furniture, but Emma had a vision. She built a reputation for herself as a meticulous appraiser, and her company grew. Soon, she was handling multi-million-dollar auctions, working with private collectors and even museums. She was finally making it, quietly behind the scenes. But her family still had no idea. To them, Emma was just the quiet daughter who worked with old things, never understanding that her work was worth millions. When Emma's success grew, she started sending money home. $3,000 a month at first, then more as Grace's academic expenses skyrocketed. Emma didn't mind. She had the means to help, and no one had asked her for anything, so she kept sending it without question. But deep down she was becoming resentful. Every time her mother called asking for more money, and every time Grace posted pictures of vacations and new designer bags, Emma started to question her role in the family. Then came the Thanksgiving dinner. Emma had decided not to host. It was just another holiday filled with unspoken expectations and unacknowledged efforts. But when her mother called, frail and exhausted, asking her to step in, Emma agreed. She had the means to make it special, to give her family a meal that would make them take notice. She hired a high-end catering service, and the meal was nothing like they had ever experienced before. When Grace saw the elaborate spread, she sneered, not understanding the lengths Emma had gone to make everything perfect. As Emma sat upstairs, quietly monitoring a live auction, her sister barged in and grabbed her laptop. What Grace didn't realize was that the screen revealed something much more than a holiday feast. Emma's financials, her $12.6 million fortune, and her company's latest contracts. The room went silent. Emma's family stared in disbelief. When Emma stood up and revealed the truth, that she was the CEO of her own company, handling multimillion-dollar contracts, they were stunned. But their reaction wasn't pride. Instead, it was a demand. Why hadn't she told them? Why hadn't she shared her wealth? Her mother accused her of being selfish, of hiding her success. Grace, in tears, demanded to know why she wasn't included. Emma looked at her family, at the people who had never truly seen her, and realized that their love for her had always been conditional. They hadn't wanted her for who she was. They had wanted her for what she could provide. And that's when Emma made the decision that would change everything. She had been sending money to her parents for years, quietly supporting them, trying to be the daughter they wanted her to be. But it was never enough. No matter how much she gave, they always wanted more. So Emma made the choice to stop. She canceled the automatic transfers. It was time for her family to stand on their own. When Emma walked away, her family exploded in anger. Her mother, father, and even Grace screamed at her, calling her heartless. But Emma stayed silent. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel guilty for choosing herself. She didn't need to explain. She didn't need their approval. Emma had finally found her own worth. And this time no one could take that from her. She left the Thanksgiving dinner and walked away from the family who had never truly appreciated her. Emma knew that true freedom came from choosing yourself, from building your life on your own terms, without being weighed down by those who only saw you as a means to an end. For the first time, she was truly free. This is Emma's story. The story of a woman who refused to stay in the shadows of a family who never saw her worth, and who, through hard work and perseverance, built a life of her own. On her terms, Emma settled into her new life, far from the shadow of her family. She realized something she had never fully understood before. True freedom is found in choosing yourself, in building something that is yours and yours alone, without waiting for approval from anyone, even the people who should have supported you the most. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. A true gem doesn't need to shout to prove its worth. It only needs to not be buried among the rocks. Emma had spent so many years hidden in the shadows, doubting her own worth, and now she had come into her own. Her company grew even stronger after the fallout with her family. Clients who once doubted her came back, trusting her expertise and respecting her decision to stay silent for so long. Her reputation as an antique jewelry appraiser had become a symbol of resilience, a woman who had proven herself in the face of rejection and neglect. Emma knew her success wasn't just about money or power. It was about finding the courage to let go of what held her back and embrace the woman she was meant to be. She didn't need the validation of those who never saw her value. She had learned to believe in herself, and in doing so, she had built a life that reflected that self-respect. Her new home, a quiet villa overlooking Lake Menad, became a sanctuary, a place where she no longer had to dim her light for anyone. As she sat with her grandmother, going through her gemstone collections and planning new projects, Emma realized she had built more than just a business. She had created a life rooted in self-worth, independence, and, most importantly, freedom. It wasn't about being rich. It wasn't about impressing others. It was about being true to herself, letting go of the toxic expectations of her family, and standing tall with the knowledge that she was enough. And as Emma continued to grow, she never forgot the lessons learned through her struggles. She learned that silence doesn't mean weakness. It's the strength to let go of the noise around you and focus on what truly matters. Emma had walked away from the family that had never truly seen her, but in doing so, she found a freedom that could never be taken from her. This is the power of reclaiming your own life. It's not easy. It's not simple. But in the end, it's the only way to live authentically and with purpose. If Emma's story resonated with you, if you too have ever felt overlooked or undervalued, then remember this. Your worth is not defined by others. It is defined by how you choose to see yourself and how you decide to live your life. Sometimes the hardest thing is choosing to walk away from those who drain you, but doing so may be the very thing that sets you free. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to give it a like and share it with others who might need to hear this message. Leave a comment below telling us what you think about Emma's journey. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and join us at Acts of Kindness Stories as we continue to share more powerful, uplifting stories like this one. Together, let's spread kindness, understanding, and the belief that we are all worthy of living our truth. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers and be part of this growing community that celebrates strength, self-worth, and the power of choosing yourself. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.